Hey guys, I'm reacting to Indian War Elephants, Sound Chaos on the Battlefield, Medieval Indian History by Odd Compass. Good channel. With a focus on Asian history. So let's give this video a watch. Indian War Elephants.
If you have even a passing interest in Indian history, then chances are that you're curious about the
Oh, definitely.
Indian war elephant. These armored
100%.
juggernauts have been terrifying
100%, and no wonder,
armies for millennia. As the famed Mauryan minister Kautilya once mused, the destruction of an enemy army depends on elephants. This belief perpetuated every corner of the Indian subcontinent, from the Cholas in the south to the Guptas in the north. But the truth is more complicated than we've been led to believe. War elephants were monstrous engines of destruction, yes, but they were not unbeatable. In fact, some of the most disastrous battles in Indian history are linked to the failures of war elephants. Today, we're going to focus on the medieval era, which further illustrates the issue. In an age of cannons and horse archers, Indian kings continued to employ war elephants to mixed results. But why? And how? Let's jump right in. Elephants,
I'm guessing it could be sort of status.
Selected for battle training, could grow up to 12 feet tall and weigh up to 4 tons, while reaching top speeds of up to 15 miles per hour. Indian elephants in particular were renowned for their broad stature and relatively short legs. This gave them a low center of gravity. They were more stable than their taller North African counterparts and more useful for combat. The combat potential of the elephant was obvious. In fact, their tough, loose skin could even serve as light armor by itself. Measuring an inch in thickness, the skin of a war elephant could shield it against glancing sword and spear attacks. Even naked, a trained war elephant could terrify and scatter a group of soldiers. But Indian kings weren't satisfied with the default option. Their militaries invested significant resources towards equipping these towering beasts with tools to enhance
That's pretty awesome.
their natural defenses and killing power. In the medieval era, war elephants were equipped with protective steel armor in the form of heavy chainmail and plate. Body parts that required more mobility, such as the trunk and underside of the elephant, were left unarmored or only lightly armored. A small platform called a howdah would be placed on the war elephant's back, where 3 to 4 archers or spear throwers would position themselves to fight. This made the war elephant a hybrid unit, able to serve in both a ranged and close combat capacity. However, the most important
Yeah, that seems an effective strategy.
soldier in the crew was the mahout, the driver, who was equipped with a 2-pronged goad that could be used to control his elephant in the heat of battle. Skilled mahouts were extremely valuable and helped train their war elephant, teaching it to withstand severe pain, to protect its riders, to obey directional commands, and to utilize its entire body to attack: trunk, tusks, head, legs, teeth, and ears. This training expanded the elephant's combat toolset. For example, medieval Sri Lankan records indicate that a properly trained war elephant could use its teeth to bite off a soldier's head. As if that wasn't frightening enough, the records reveal several instances where war elephants used their trunks to grab enemy soldiers and toss them violently into the air. Trunk grabbing was a popular strategy for engaging high-priority targets. According to one account describing the Battle of Talakota, the Vijayanagar Emperor, Ramaraya, was grabbed by the trunk of an enemy war elephant and carried directly to the Ahmadnagar Sultan, who beheaded him. Frightening. But let's move from the trunk to the tusks. War elephant tusks were almost always enhanced through artificial means. In India, war elephants would usually have their tusks partially removed and refitted with hardened steel. Additional modifications were not uncommon, such as tusk blades to increase the range of the elephant's melee attacks. And these blades could be covered in poison too. For commanders looking to sow chaos among disciplined troop formations, they could install heavy flails attached to the elephant's tusks. Okay. So our war elephant is trained and equipped. What are its combat capabilities on the medieval battlefield? Perhaps the biggest advantage of the war elephant was its ability to terrify enemy horses, provoking their natural instincts and causing them to disobey their riders' commands. War elephants were placed where they could counter cavalry charges. Sometimes they would be peppered into infantry formations. In many cases, however, they would be positioned in groups along the flanks, a position that the enemy cavalry was likely to strike. Cavalry that engaged too close to a war elephant would reportedly stall, buck, or even flee. Over the centuries, this became increasingly relevant. On the medieval Indian battlefield, superior cavalry was often the deciding factor between success and failure. In fact, many wars were fought to secure trade routes supplying Arabian horses. The elephant's anti-cavalry function was a critical tool for controlling the battlefield in an era which the horse had come to dominate. Militaries had somewhat adapted to this problem by training their horses to be comfortable around enraged elephants. In training, they would smear foul-smelling odors on elephant dummies, forcing the horse to repeatedly charge and engage the dummy. Eventually, they would practice around real elephants, and horse desensitization would be achieved. Unsurprisingly, counters to this specialized horse training were also developed. Elephants could be adorned with bells to create a cacophony of noise. Soldiers with horns and drums could provoke further confusion. For all their value against cavalry, it was the war elephant's nightmare-inducing capabilities against infantry that earned them their reputation. A disciplined infantry formation could hold their position against a cavalry charge, but an elephant charge was something entirely different. Medieval Indian accounts depict horrifying battle scenes, war elephants charging in with their trunks tucked safely below, their steel-modified tusks shining through a curtain of artillery smoke.
Damn.
The sheer intimidation of a charging elephant would be accompanied by alien shrieks and giant flapping ears. And when the war elephant slammed the infantry line, it would be directed to kick, headbutt, bite, stab, and slice. Meanwhile, arrows and spears were rained down upon infantry from the elephant's howdah. To make things even more problematic for infantry, Indian commanders would stack their elephants in large blocks or lines before directing a charge. This forced enemy formations to break apart lest they be trampled to death. Enemy infantry, now left without the benefit of their tight defensive formation, could then be picked apart by incoming cavalry and missile volleys. To further enhance the war elephant's ability to shatter formations and deny a large area of the battlefield, some Indian commanders even chained together lines of war elephants with battering rams. Charging in at the same time, they could deliver enormous casualties unless the enemy gave up their position entirely. Despite their advantages, war elephants had a number of weaknesses that could be exploited by skilled commanders.
Makes
the
sense.
historical record is chock full of examples. Consider the Ghaznavid Turks. When they first entered the subcontinent, the Ghaznavids encountered North Indian militaries that fielded a substantial number of war elephants. Ghaznavid records describe a battle with the Jat army in the Sindh region in 1027 CE, where the Ghaznavid commanders confidently managed the war elephant threat. According to these records, the Ghaznavid commander directed a legendary archer, Ali Bukhari, to target the massive elephant leading the Jat army. Ali used a longbow and poison-tipped arrows made with hardened Damascus steel. He fired 3 arrows. The first shattered some of the protective armor on the elephant's head, the second pierced the elephant's eye, and the third wounded its trunk. Now in severe pain, the elephant went berserk and began to trample its own allies. This gave the Ghaznavid commander an opening to attack the Jat army and win the day. This strategy of attacking the weak points to provoke an elephant's fear of death is extremely effective. When going berserk, the elephant can cause more damage to its own side than its enemy. See, elephants are intelligent creatures. Their fear of death can only be suppressed so much. To make matters worse, this inclination to go berserk could be exploited quite easily, as war elephants were large and obvious targets. Entire volleys of arrows, gunfire, and artillery could be directed at them. During the medieval era, this tactic became even easier to execute thanks to the battlefield dominance of the horse archer. Highly mobile horse archers were used throughout India, but especially in Deccan South India and the Indo-Gangetic plains. When properly utilized, horse archers would conduct regular run-by attacks on war elephants. The horse archers could stay safely out of range at most times. But ranged combat was not the only counter to war elephants. There were close combat counters too. Infantry melee attacks could be used to immobilize, provoke, and kill elephants, though only the most disciplined and daring soldiers were tasked with handling such duties. Infantry were trained to encircle war elephants and slash at their trunk, eyes, and legs, potentially even hamstringing them. Elephants could also engage one another in melee combat. Sri Lankan records describe the violent wrestling match between 2 war elephants.
Damn.
The elephants used their tusks and body weight to submit the other. Once a submission was achieved, the winning elephant would use their tusks to stab through the downed elephant's skull. Now, it's important to understand that many Indian commanders used war elephants as a vehicle from which to direct the battlefield. Given the vantage point granted by the elephant's height and the howdah platform on its back, commanders could maintain a superior view of a chaotic battlefield. But this could be problematic too. Commanders were easily targeted while riding on war elephants. There are several recorded instances where a commander's elephant was subjected to a focused attack, and the elephant was killed or sent fleeing, causing their army to break rank. For example, consider the Battle of Takalam between the Rashtrakutas and the Cholas in 949 CE. At the Battle of Takalam, Chola prince Rajaditya was attacked while riding his elephant. His elephant was killed by a large volley of arrows.
Oh, the Cholas, that Southeast Asian kingdom. Well, not Southeast Asian, that the Indian kingdom that dealt with Southeast Asia. Interesting. They kind of like established like a Southeast Asian monopoly on trade. So interesting.
Rashtrakuta infantry then mounted the dead elephant, entered the howdah, and killed Rajaditya. When the Chola army saw their prince commander die, it broke into disorder and fled. The battle was lost thanks to a single focused attack on a war elephant. More than 100 years later, the Cholas continued to have bad luck with war elephants.
Damn. I mean, they had way better luck on the ocean and their seafaring. Oh, definitely check that video out, by the way. It should be up on the channel. It's a reaction to the time an Indian kingdom, I think, conquered Southeast Asia. Or something similar to that. It's about the Cholas, though. So it should be interesting if you want to check it out.
Consider the Battle of Kuppam in 1054 CE, fought between the Cholas and the Chalukyas. During the battle, Chola king Rajadiraja was attacked while riding his war elephant. The records show that the king's elephant was showered with a volley of arrows. With his defenses disrupted, enemy infantry mounted King Rajadiraja's elephant and killed him. In fact, Rajadiraja came to be known as the king who died on the back of an elephant. Despite this horrific event, his brother, Prince Rajendra II, managed to dramatically turn around the battle and win. Anti-elephant tactics went beyond focus firing the elephant and either killing it or provoking a rampage. For example, a war elephant's charge could be mitigated through the use of angled broad spears that were placed into the ground. These broad spears could maim a charging elephant and impede movement. Alternatively, the use of trenches could immobilize an elephant. Unlike horses, Indian war elephants could not physically leap. As such, they could be trapped by hidden ditches and trenches.
Damn.
Once the elephants were lured into a trench trap, it was a simple matter to surround and kill both the riders and the war elephant. Records also indicate that armies would sometimes capture enemy war elephants in this way. Elephants were no doubt a mixed bag tactically, but politics helps to explain why war elephants continued to be used on the Indian battlefield. Capturing elephants in the wild wasn't easy, nor was it common to find one that had the physical and mental capacities to become a useful war elephant. The incredible cost of acquiring and maintaining stables of war elephants was a real administrative challenge. War elephants were worth roughly 100,000 dirhams each, and could consume enormous amounts of food on a daily basis. Thus, fielding a large elephant corps was considered a matter of imperial legitimacy and prestige. Consider the Vijayanagar Empire, for example. In traveler accounts
Status, huh?
and court records of the Vijayanagar Empire, the king's elephant corps is referenced in connection to the immense power and wealth of the empire. Before the colonial era, every outside force that invaded the Indian subcontinent, from the Indo-Greeks to the Scythians and the Ghaznavids, eventually incorporated war elephants into their armies despite having achieved early victories.
I'm kind of unsure on the Ghaznavids. Let me look that up, actually. I've heard the term before, but I'm guessing it's just the area that is Afghanistan, maybe like a Persian type of dynasty. I'm not sure. Let's see though. The Ghaznavid dynasty was a Persianate Muslim dynasty of Turkic Mamluk origin, at their greatest extent ruling large parts of Iran, Afghanistan, much of Transoxiana, and the northwest Indian subcontinent from 977 to 1186. Huh, interesting. Sounds a bit like the Timurids. Damn, that's interesting though. So their official language was Persian, sort of Arabic and Turkic, yeah. So it seems like it was you know, like I guess a Turkic dynasty, you know, which happened a lot, you know, like the Turks came from the east and went west, so they established, dynasties. So it makes sense, honestly. That's interesting. And the Turks kind of, at least they adopted like the Persian customs a lot of the time. Even in the Ottoman Empire, they spoke Turkish. They spoke Persian. At least the nobility did it first. So interesting. Although the dynasty was of Central Asian Turkic origin, it was thoroughly Persianized in terms of language, culture, literature, and habits, and hence it is regarded as a Persian dynasty. Interesting. Yep. Makes sense. Alright, let's get back to the video.
Without elephants. Even if their use was militarily inconsistent, war elephants were clearly important as a symbolic demonstration of power.
Makes sense.
But there was an additional geopolitical benefit to employing a large elephant corps. See, most major Indian kingdoms and empires demanded that feudatories supply them with war elephants at their own expense. This not only imposed a significant cost upon the feudatory, but also deprived that feudatory of elephants that could otherwise be used to stage a rebellious attack. Thus, the ruling empire's position was made more secure.
That's good. That is smart.
The medieval Chalukyas were known for employing this administrative tactic, demanding hundreds of war elephants from each of their feudatories. They gained such an advantage, in fact, that they maintained a vast and stable empire for over 200 years. Side note, the Chalukyas were real innovators. In medieval South India, alcohol was a centerpiece of both daily life and the battlefield. The Chalukyas famously forced their elephants to consume alcohol and drugs before battle, which made the elephants more resistant to the shock of the battlefield. The soldiers riding the elephants were also high and drunk, an entirely tactical decision, no doubt. And so the war elephant continued through the late medieval era and even into the early modern era, in which the Mysore kingdom utilized elephant gunner squads against the British Empire. But while a war elephant could have a positive military impact, despite the risks, its value may have been primarily political, for in India, the war elephant had taken on a socio-cultural quality that was intrinsically associated with empire. If you're interested in learning more about Indian history, and more broadly, Asian history, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be making lots more videos on some pretty niche and interesting topics, so get ready.
Of course, that was an amazing, amazing video. I mean, if I haven't done it already, definitely gonna do that now. I mean, yeah. Also reacted to this video before. You can check that out. And of course, you can find, the original video in the description box below. Anyway, really enjoyed that video, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.